Yo, how's it going everyone? I hope you all are having a wonderful day. I'm Amos and today I'm going to be discussing one of my favorite light novels in So I Am a Spider, So What? This video will contain some spoilers for the first few volumes. Nothing beyond what the anime adaptation has covered, but for those of you who want to hear about the story without any spoilers, I will cover the general idea of the light novel as well as why I highly recommend it, before I go into the spoiler territory. For those of you who are into literature and the fantasy genre, this light novel is a must-read. I know light novels are not for everyone, but for anyone who likes books and is interested in anime, this light novel is a good segue. This and Overlord are my two favorite light novels. They have both goofy and dark moments that keep the readers on their toes, and they keep the unusual and weird anime tropes to a minimum, so most people will be comfortable reading them. As such, they are the perfect light novels to try out if you want to see if light novels are for you. So to start, what is this story about? This light novel has two protagonists. There's our first protagonist, who's nameless at the start of the series. The community has nicknamed her Kumoko, so I will be referring to her as that for the video. She does eventually get a name, but that leads into spoiler territory, so I won't be covering it in the video. Now, Kumoko is the main protagonist whom the entire series revolves around. The secondary protagonist, whom we follow for a majority of the first 5 volumes, is named Schlein. Both of these characters were sitting in their classroom when a crack in reality suddenly appeared, and then an explosion occurred inside their classroom, killing everyone. These were the last memories these two had before they suddenly awoke in a different world. For Kumoko, she had awoken as a spider monster called a small lesser Tartarak, while Schlein awoke as an infant prince. Neither knew where they were, but they had different experiences upon awakening. One pleasant, one horrendous. You can probably figure out which one had which. The story then follows the two of them as they both grow and develop in their own ways. So from the get-go, we get to see how the aspect of the hero's journey can vary between two different characters. We get to witness it from a pro-life perspective and a pro-preservation perspective. Neither one of the characters' views on life is wrong because they had two completely different upbringings. Their call to adventure and supernatural aid were the same, but from that point on, their paths diverge and we see how that affects the decisions they make. They both gain strength as they grow and develop into protagonists in their own right. Unfortunately, after volume 5, Schlein's story takes a break and we focus primarily on Kumoko. The reason being is because Schlein's story unfortunately gets rushed while Kumoko's story is more drawn out. That's because Schlein reaches the revelation and transformation stage far more quickly than Kumoko does. Even after Kumoko reaches that point, her storyline continues without us seeing Schlein, which is unfortunate, especially since his storyline doesn't continue until the series nears its end. Yes, the story is finished in Japan while its English release is nearing its conclusion, so you can start reading the series and be caught up close to the final volume's release date. Now, not only does the light novel have a good and compelling storyline, but the comedy is also on point. A lot of the jokes revolve around Kumoko being a spider traveling on her own, so she holds conversations with herself. She spends a great deal of time monologuing in a non-serious fashion, which is used to show off her carefree and spirited nature, which I personally found more entertaining than having a narrator come on and explaining everything in a bland, unbiased tone, especially when Kumoko screws up. For example, she will destroy something and insist the thing she just destroyed was either destroyed by someone else or was like that when she got there. And she will emphasize that claim. It gives off the impression that she is trying to convince the reader, then reference that she is in fact just talking to herself. It adds a lighthearted feel to this otherwise serious and grim story. In Schlein's case, there was a lot more serious dialogue between him and his friends, while on occasion they might joke around for a bit. But all in all, Schlein's storyline is far more straightforward than Kumoko's. Moving on from the lighthearted aspect of the story to the dark and grim side. Now, this isn't one of those generic isekais where the protagonist gets reincarnated into a new world with a chief skill and one-shots everyone they face. In Kumoko's case, she was born as a spider monster called a Tartarak. Since she was a newborn, she was the smallest and weakest variant of that species. And the first thing she awoke to was the sight of her siblings killing and eating each other. Then she met her supposed mother, which was a giant spider monster the size of a building, which we later learn is referred to as a Queen Tartarak, one of the strongest and most dangerous monsters in the world. Now for size reference, Kumoko was about the size of your palm, and her mother towered over her, and she witnessed her mother eat one of her siblings. So her first sight after experiencing death and rebirth was mass cannibalization of her kin by her own kin. Then her mother set her eyes on her. Fortunately, Kumoko did get a cheat skill when she reincarnated. It was called Skanda, which increased her speed, which made it easy for her to flee. Unfortunately, that is all it did. And despite me calling it a cheat skill, it didn't do much. This skill is only considered a cheat skill because it is a high tier skill that requires years of training to achieve, and Kumoko had gotten it at birth. Compared to some of the other abilities that her classmates had gotten, she got the short end of the stick. Like the skill Shlaine got at birth, it was a unique skill called Divine Protection, which was tailor-made specifically for him. Now what it does is, it makes it easier for him to achieve his desired result, which is incredibly vague, which makes it difficult to pin down when it's actually doing something. We don't know for certain if this skill helped him get out of life or death situations, but it is highly likely. We also do end up meeting some of their other classmates and teacher, as well as learning about the dangers that the world holds. Like in Kumoko's case, she has to travel around a labyrinth fighting off horrid monsters in order to survive. Since she has no food, she needs to kill in order to eat, and this has led her to have many life or death battles where she gets brutally maimed and injured, to the point where she was at death's door multiple times. Her entire fighting style revolves around her threads and her trap-making expertise. She rarely gets into a one-on-one fight, but unfortunately, she does get into situations where she has no other choice but to fight an opponent head-on, and suffered greatly for it. This dark atmosphere, combined with Kumoko's lighthearted personality and Shlaine exploring and learning about the world they are in, leads to a unique story that makes you wonder more about what is truly going on within the other world. Now from this point on, I will be discussing spoiler-related topics in order to paint a full picture of the story. For those of you avoiding spoilers, this is where we say our goodbyes. I hope I managed to convince you to pick up this light novel. The manga and anime are both good in their own rights, but the best way to read this material is hands down the light novel. The manga only follows Kumoko, so we don't see Shlaine and the other reincarnations. And the anime has some ugly CGI that me and a lot of people were not a fan of. It was a good adaptation, but they skipped Shlaine awakening in the new world and fast forwarded to his teenage years, which was very awkward to see. Anyways, time to move on to the spoiler-filled section of the video. So to build on the story, the world they are in is a video game-esque world. However, everything in the world, including skills and leveling up, revolves around killing and fighting. There is an entire religious sect called the Word of God, which is dedicated to encouraging people to level up and gain skills in order for them to hear the voice of God. The voice of God is a voice that they hear inside their head whenever they have met some type of requirement, like gain enough experience points to level up, or done enough of an action to gain a title and any ensuing skills from the title. You know, stuff like that. This introduced us to the concept of gods in that world, and we learn a little more about them. One of the gods of that world is D. She is an administrator who brought the reincarnations into that world and presented each of them with a powerful skill. D is first mentioned when Kumoko maxed out her appraisal and detection skill. Kumoko was disappointed that the skill didn't evolve into an OP skill like Sage of Wisdom. Then she heard the voice of God saying Administrator D has accepted her request and was constructing the skill Wisdom. That was when Kumoko's heart sank, and she realized that her life and the lives of everyone in that world were nothing more than a plaything for the administrators. Dee teleports a phone to her in order to give her some more details about what happened to them and how they ended up in that world. The only reason she did this was because Kumoko was the most entertaining creature in that entire world. Dee enjoyed watching Kumoko suffer and survive difficult circumstances, and since Kumoko was so entertaining, she decided to do her a favor. So Dee created Wisdom for her and decided to answer some of her questions. Dee proceeded to explain that she was a student in the classroom with them, and the previous hero and Demon Lord teamed up in an attempt to kill her. They tried creating a spell from scratch, which is really difficult to do, in order to attack her from the other world. As such, they lost control of the spell, which resulted in an explosion that killed them, plus everyone in the classroom. Well, except for Dee, that is. So Dee felt bad for getting all of them killed, so she brought them into this world, which she governs, and gave them all one powerful skill in order for them to have a fighting chance. And now comes the kicker. There is an end goal for the characters. Kumoko learns of this when she accidentally maxed out her taboo skill, which is a skill which is never supposed to be maxed out. At least that is what the skill's description states. When it's maxed out, it reveals the truth of the world. The planet they are on is dying. It's on the verge of collapsing, but there is a way to save it. We don't learn of the way in the anime, but we do learn that it involves a lot of killing and sacrificing. Hence why skills and leveling up involves fighting and killing. We also meet a few antagonists, including Ariel, the current Demon Lord, and the original Tartarak, and Potamus, the progenitor of the elves. Each have their own goals and reasons for fighting. I would love to get into those reasons, but that goes beyond where the anime left off, so I will refrain from doing so. I will say that Kumiko does end up finding both of them. You just have to read or watch the anime in order to find out the results. So I Am a Spider, So What is a unique light novel that tells the tale of a classroom full of students and their homeroom teacher dying in a mysterious explosion, then awakening in a video game-like fantasy world filled with magic, monsters, and mayhem. They grow through these struggles and develop their own philosophies that differ from each other. It's an amazing story that I recommend you all check out if you're interested in literature and need a segue into the anime market. Kumiko and Slane are both lovable characters, and the cast as a whole mesh really well together. All of the isekai characters are average in terms of strength. None of them have an easy go out life though. They may gain strength that surpasses the norm as they get older, but even so, there are always obstacles in their way. So there is never a dull moment in this wonderful story. And with that, I would like to thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and remember to keep having fun. See ya!